Our next question will be asked by our member, Doug. Doug, you want to start off with?
Sure.
We're starting off with Sarah.
I'm going to start off with Sarah, okay? All right, I'm going to approach this a little bit differently. I'm going to repeat the question, okay? One of my observations is perhaps by repeating the question, we can stay on the question. So these are important. Your answers are incredibly important to the citizens and everybody watching. So I want to make sure that you're careful in understanding what the question is. So I will repeat the question for each of you, okay, so that we can be very clear about your response. The recent adoption of the $6 million bond issue has been a source of controversy among citizens over the last few weeks. The reason for the bond issue is to address fiscal elements of the Forward Fernandina Beach Plan. Tell us 3 elements of the Forward Fernandina Plan and how it would affect the entire city. And we'll start with Sarah.
Part of the Forward Fernandina Plan was to envelop the post office. They were talking about spending $350,000 just to maintain the post office until we could decide whether we would buy the post office at some point, or the federal government would give us the post office for $1 and then we would lease it back to them at very, very favorable rates. I didn't agree with that just because, again, we wouldn't own the post office, and I can't see putting a penny of taxpayer dollars into maintaining a building that the federal government, and face it, we pay the federal government and they haven't bothered to maintain it, so why should we be paying again to maintain something that they have failed to maintain? A second part of Forward Fernandina was buying a new property for the library. The county has already set aside $600,000 should we decide to improve the current library facility or move to a different building. And it was up and down as to whether we had this building. Again, it was like the post office. Do we or don't we have the option of purchasing these buildings? Again, why would you enter into an agreement when the information is not readily available? It just did not make sense to me. Another item from the Forward Fernandina is the opening up of Alachua Street, which is currently going ahead right now. Again, I can't see when we have an issue with stormwater system and other infrastructure problems, why we would be opening up and spending upwards of $1.5 million on opening up Alachua Street.
Very good. Okay, we're going to go to John now. Same thing. $6 million bond issue has been a source of controversy among city residents over the last few weeks. The reason for the bond issue is to address the fiscal elements of the Forward Fernandina Plan. Tell us 3 elements that you're aware of in the Forward Fernandina Plan and how it would affect the entire city.
The way I read it, Doug, is that in the first year, the budget of this year, 2012, $2.7 million. It's broken down. That is the first phase to do the waterfront park and associated stuff around the waterfront, which includes the Alachua Street opening. The second one was focusing on the downtown and the revitalization, which may or may not include a post office, may or may not include a new library. Pie in the sky stuff. We don't know, but it's out there. And the third was addressing the 8th Street entrance to the city and revitalizing that. All of this has been pushed out 2, 3, 4, 5 years, just like a strategic plan would. So the only real money that has been set aside, or at least budgeted, has been the 2.7 for 2012. The issue with the 2.7 is that it's going to cost $224,000 in principal and interest payments for the citizens of this community, and they haven't been asked, A, if the project's presented where they want it, and B, they're being asked to pay for it, but they haven't been asked, to vote on it. So I see that as a sticking point. The third thing is that the loan origination is a very, we're borrowing money, I'm told, because there's cheap money to borrow. That really doesn't fit with my idea of financial accountability.
Very good. Mayor Steger, the recent adoption of the $6 million bond issue has been a source of controversy among city residents over the last few weeks. The reason for the bond issue is to address the fiscal elements of the Ford Fernandina plan. Tell us 3 elements of the Ford Fernandina plan that you're aware of and how they would specifically affect the entire city.
Yes. Just quickly, there is no funding available in the Ford Fernandina plan for the post office. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. The railroad crossings, take a look at Center Street and Ash. It's horrible. If any of you had been at the Veterans and Memorial Day events, the pedestrian crossing, we need to work on an improved pedestrian crossing in that area. It is the city's responsibility. We need to have that completed. I feel it's a big liability issue. If you look at people trying to get strollers across that area, wheelchairs, it's a real problem, and I think it would benefit our entire city if we improve that area. Acquiring the property at Rayonier for Rayonier. There is an important piece of property at the south end of the waterfront. If we don't get this property, then we will have an incredible expense to deal with stormwater issues on Front Street. Rayonier, our great community partners, reluctantly agreed to sell that to us, along with some other parcels of property, one that would be a wonderful connection with Fletcher Avenue and the Greenway. I think we need to jump on that. I also believe that we should take a baby step. I am not ready to say we will go ahead and borrow $6 million. By the way, the borrowing will be $2 million. That is what the RFP is. I feel we should be ready to go. The Omni is investing $80 million at the south end. The Ritz-Carlton has invested millions. Let's be ready to go. It will benefit all of us if we do that. Thank you.
Mr. Corbett, over the last few weeks, the $6 million bond issue has been a source of controversy for many city residents. The reason for the bond issue is to address the fiscal elements of the Ford Fernandina plan. Tell us 3 elements that you're aware of Ford Fernandina and how it would affect the entire city.
First of all, we don't need to do this right now. I mean, do these projects pay for themselves? Do they stimulate the economy? I think the answer to that is both no. I mean, one thing that's going to happen to all the citizens in Fernandina Beach is their electric rates are going up. Right now it's $4.5 dollars for every 100. You can go all the way to $10. That's going up. They can't get enough money there. They've got the natural gas rates we don't even have. That's going up. And then, if we still don't have enough money, we'll have a special assessment where every resident, that'll be the one thing every resident will get to share is a special assessment. We'll all get to pay for that. As far as there's no money in the budget for the post office, folks, if you look at the 2011-2012 budget, in the next 5 years, there's $8.7 million in the budget for the post office. Now, I don't know how that's going to help us out any, but this, right now, this will not help anybody out. As some of you may have read in the paper, Birmingham, Alabama's going broke. Well, if we do this right now, we may be on the same track. So anyway, I'd say not right now for that.
Councilman Childers, over the last few weeks, the $6 million bond issue has been a source of controversy among city residents. The reason for this bond issue is to address fiscal elements of Ford Fernandina. Tell us 3 elements that you're aware of Ford Fernandina and how it would affect the entire city.
Thank you, Doug. The first point I'd like to make is tourism benefits us all. When sales tax revenues increase, then we don't have to look for other places to generate the revenue. We're also experiencing inflation just like you are. So are we as a city, so am I as a person. So it would benefit us all to invest into downtown. The last time there was a significant investment in downtown was 1977. We've invested in the airport, we've invested in the golf course. So we are making these investments across the community. The infrastructure and stormwater that was addressed by the mayor at the south end of the park here will provide stormwater holding retention ponds for the city, and that will also it will give us a place to divert that water to the hole before it's discharged into the river. The 8th Street, we're looking at incentives for beautification. Everybody can agree that it's not the most attractive street. I think it looks better than it's looked since I've moved here. We'd like to continue in that effort. Putting the utilities underground has a price tag of $12 million for 8th Street. That's not an expense we've been willing to incur. And I think that's it. I mean, our downtown is an asset, and we must invest in it. It is our second greatest asset next to our beaches, and it benefits us all. So.
Has everybody answered the question?